Good morning, guys. It is Monday, August 19th, 2024. This Bathrobe business. I got the coffee and I got the news. So I've got a number of stories I want to share with you guys today. All of them I think interesting in very different sectors of the economy. The first thing we're going to do is actually start local. So first story, this one's coming from our local KSL, and this is in regards to the Texas Instruments facility that is currently being built down in Lehigh. So now this is news I've reported on before. Texas Instruments has invested $11 billion in a new facility. They already have a facility there. It was originally Micron, but when they acquired them, it was obviously converted to Texas Instruments. And for those that don't know, that think Texas Instruments builds nothing but the calculators we used in high school, you're wrong. Texas Instruments is a massive conglomerate that builds semiconductors all across the United States. They've gone through several acquisitions over the decades and are now one of the largest domestic manufacturers of computer chips. And this facility is an expansion of that. So this is actually the groundbreaking from back in November. And I think I reported on the story back in March of last year when it was first announced. This is the groundbreaking in November. This comes not entirely because of the CHIPS Act, but with heavy investment from the CHIPS Act as well. And now the Biden administration has pledged another $1.6 billion in investment for this new facility, and in addition, another $3 billion in loans to the company. I don't know what the terms of these loans are. I'm assuming some sort of low interest rates in order to facilitate the construction. So this is just further investment within the same facility, just kind of shows that we're doubling down on investment in local reshoring. This is also a huge move for Utah because, as those that know, the Silicon Slopes is a major tech sector here in Utah, and this is the largest investment Utah has ever had as far as a government project. I don't know how this factors in with stuff like the freeways or stuff like that, but this is listed as the largest investment, any federal government investment here in the state of Utah. So this is a major move for the Silicon Slopes. And in addition, this is due to start manufacturing as soon as 2026. So within about a year and a half, we're going to be seeing production coming out of this facility with new chips onto the market. So major moves for Utah. That's pretty much all the article says. It's got a little video here from X that you could watch about the construction. But essentially, it's just saying that we're reinvesting additional funds that were already invested to begin with. Next story I want to cover. It's kind of related to this. So next story I want to cover is actually about Deadpool and Wolverine. Doesn't seem like a story that is similar to the Silicon Slopes here in Utah, but it actually very much is. So as we are reshoring and bringing investment back out from overseas, so is China. So this is, I think, one of the most illustrative stories in recent history to see how great the divide is growing between the U.S. and China. So Deadpool and Wolverine is the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. It's breaking every single record. And it's doing phenomenal here domestically. However, in China, it's in 15th place right now. And even in its best day, it only made the top 6. This is a pretty powerful change from where it used to be just a number of years ago. The turn kind of started happening around 2020, but it's just steadily growing more and more and more. Chinese audiences are more preferential to domestic production. Currently, the rival to Deadpool and Wolverine is a comedy there called Successor. And this is a trend that keeps growing, and the divide keeps growing. Now, what's interesting from this is twofold. For the largest time, a lot of people have complained that Hollywood hasn't been making quality films. A part of that component is the fact that Hollywood is trying to make very generic products that are marketable internationally, because so much of the market is international. There was so much money in it that a lot of their films were kind of bland and generalized, that they could be easily translated. Dialogue was simple, heavy reliance on CGI. And that's kind of diluted the Hollywood brand to some extent. The fact that they had to create a very bland, generic product in order to appeal to a mass market. However, the other factor here is the soft power that the United States always wielded. So American culture was always exported through its media, through music, through television, through movies. So this is a two-pronged hit. On the one hand, this is going to hurt Hollywood's financial structure, because so much of it has become dependent on overseas sales. Now, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be fine, but it's the movies that follow that are going to have an issue. But also, as far as a cultural structure, this is going to hurt United States soft power because our American movies have always been such a powerful force internationally, and the fact that it's falling in such a massive market goes to show that America is losing its influence internationally. And a further hint that we need to rely more on reshoring, especially with our movies, because the movies have sucked. That's pretty much it in regards to that story. Next story I want to share with you guys is just a quick one in regards to gold, as usual with me. So gold is up once again. It is at 25.29. Interestingly enough, when I was checking these numbers last night, just before I went to bed, it was at 25.50. So it's very close to that magic number of 2,600. Remember, 2,600 is considered an all-time high simply because during this late 70s, early 80s, when inflation was running rampant, gold hit a nominal rate of about 8 something. It was like 860, 850. But if you adjust it for inflation, it would have been around 2,600, which I've argued has already been there because Bitcoin didn't exist. But it's still nearing that magical number of 2,600. And if it hits 3,000, which a lot of the analysts are saying, I don't know what to make of that because we're in uncharted territory as far as asset inflation and as far as inflation in general. Don't believe what CPI, PCE, and all the other made up numbers tell you. If gold hits 3,000, we are at a level of inflation that the United States has never had. We're talking hyperinflation. I know they're not going to call it that, but that's all you can call it if we're seeing gold hit that high of a number. Next story I want to talk about is about Starbucks. So Starbucks has welcomed their new CEO, and this is the guy that's taking over from Chipotle. So this is Brian Niccol. Brian Niccol is the current CEO of Starbucks. He's the one that took over after Howard Schultz stepped down. And the new CEO coming in is no, it is Brian Niccol. I'm sorry. The CEO is Brian Niccol is taking over the new Starbucks operations as of September 9th. Now, this is an interesting story to read over. I am actually going to, like all these stories, they are in the description below. I recommend reading this over just because I think from a business standpoint, it's very smart on the logistics of the structure. It talks about some of the operational issues that Starbucks is having. Now, I think a lot of the problem Starbucks is having is the fact that inflation is so high, coffee is expensive, their labor costs are incredibly high, they have a unionized staff. So I think there's other problems here than just operations. I think they're oversimplifying it and they're looking for scapegoats as to why they're not producing as well as they used to. However, I definitely think that a lot of the issues in this article that are presented are true as far as operations go. So in regards to the fact that the app is a third of their sales, it seems to slow down their line. It bogs them down. At Chipotle, they have an entire person and an entire wing of the not office, but of the restaurant dedicated just to online orders. There are several items that are only available through online orders. And so it seems like those changes are going to be coming to Starbucks. So I think from a logistical, operational standpoint, I think it's a very interesting article to read to anyone running a business because it kind of highlights the fact that just because you have a product online doesn't mean you need to have the same offerings in-house and how your online items are actually almost standalones from your in-house items. So it's a very interesting article to read over. All right, next story I'm going to cover is going to be possible inflation on the horizon. Now, I know that's my favorite subject because I say inflation is always on the horizon, but this is a pretty powerful one because we're facing potentially two different inflationary pressures, one here domestically in the United States and the other in Canada. So let's start actually with the United States one. So this is a possible U.S. seaport strike could back up goods for months, shipping experts say. So what's interesting about this article is there's a potential strike that is going to start in September. So Walmart and other retailers are rushing to get their goods in ahead of September 30th, especially when we're talking in regards to holiday sales. So there are some 45,000 dock workers between the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico whose contract is up for renewal. Now, the September 30th date is simply the day that the current contract expires. So it could actually be that a new contract is put in place before then, and then there's no issue. But if there's not, 45,000 dock workers all along the East Coast of the Gulf of Mexico go on strike. So what that means The most interesting stat from this article is that one day down in movement leads to a 6-day backlog. And so a 2-week strike could mean the port will not return to normal operations until 2025. So again, in September 30th, so the 1st of October, essentially, if there's a 2-week strike from the 1st of October to the 14th of October, you won't have normal operations in that area until January, at least, of 2025. That just shows you how much of a small one day can make a difference. So every one day is equal to 6 days of backlog. So that's massive. This is going to be a backlog that we have not seen since COVID. We're talking about price increases and we're talking about major shortages. And unlike before, where the economy was shut down, there wasn't as much stuff moving around. This is going to be a bigger thing because the economy is fully open. So this could lead to major issues within the economy. However, as a double whammy, Canada is facing a very similar issue. So their contracts are up for renewal in September as well. Um, and for the first time, Canada's two main railway companies, Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City, are on the verge of simultaneous labor stops that could inflict billions of dollars worth of economic damage. So both of these contracts are coming due as well. So if this happens, this would be major stoppage not only to the United States economy but to global economies as well. And remember, this is coming off of the fact that we're still facing supply issues because of the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. Maersk has completely avoided the Red Sea. We've seen a shift from small container ships to large container ships, raising the price of international shipping. So this is powerful inflationary pressure that could be on the horizon. So it could be that everything will be fine come the next couple of weeks. But it could be that we're going to see major disruptions in shipping internationally. That's pretty much it. So those are kind of the stories of the day. Those are the ones I wanted to cover. A lot of interesting stuff happening in regards to inflation, U.S. culture, and local economy here in Utah. So I was able to hit kind of all the bases. I hope you guys have a good day. I will see you guys tomorrow and have a productive Monday.